let me introduce the next speaker. Is S. Ravindra Jayanetti. He has got masters in parasitology, joined anti-malaria campaign of Sri Lanka in 1989 as a regional officer, or is a district program manager. And after 30 years of service with 2 malaria districts, retired in 2020 with over 31 years of experience in all aspects of control, elimination, and prevention of and reintroduction of malaria in a tropical setting in Sri Lanka. After the achievement of eliminating malaria in Sri Lanka year 2012, he involved in preparing a health system for WHO certification of malaria elimination and actively interacting with all related missions in preparing the programs during the WHO certification process in 2015 and 2016, of which finally certification is obtained. So, Ravindra, it's over to you now.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Dr. Suranga, inviting me for this webinar. I am going to present my presentation. It is malaria elimination in Sri Lanka, the role of district level malaria control officer, because normally the malaria is now eliminated, and who are the contributors to this elimination? We have to consider it. And I think the role of district level malaria officer was very critical. And as the previous, as Dr. Gauri says, Lalantika's work in Hambantota, similarly, where the RMOs had a great work to finally realize the malaria elimination in Sri Lanka. So I take this opportunity to salute all the people who worked for malaria, especially for the regions and peripheral workers who actually participated and toiled and put their effort to eliminate malaria from Sri Lanka. So objective of my presentation is to elaborate the role of RMO. RMO is a district malaria officer in the elimination of malaria in Sri Lanka. And I want to illustrate the lessons learned for the other countries aiming malaria elimination from my presentation. So first we have to introduce this post, Regional Medical or Malaria Officer. Actually, this RMO is the District Program Officer designated for malaria control operations. Originally, medical graduates were recruited, but due to dearth of medical officers in 1980s, biological science graduates with entomology or parasitology background were also recruited. So then I give a brief outline of the role of RMO in the history of anti-malaria campaign, because there was some changes taken place during the course of this 100 years of history of organized malaria control in Sri Lanka. Actually, we, as Dr. Gauris and Professor Rajitha said, organized anti-malaria campaign was started in 1911, and until 1989, it was functioned as a vertical campaign headed by the leadership of superintendent, later the director of anti-malaria campaign. And during those vertical campaign, each malaria district's malaria control operations was done by medical officer known as RMO AMC, Regional Medical Officer. In 1989, with the devolution of powers to the provincial councils, all the vertical campaigns was decentralized to provincial general health services. As a result, the anti-malaria campaign was also decentralized to provincial general health services. After the decentralization, RMO's role is quite contrast from the operational officer who acted during the before decentralization period. His work is, his scope is change as a technical advisor to the regional administration on malaria and other vector-borne disease control. And the operational part is made responsibility for medical officer of health. But still, the RS, Dr. Gauri says in Hambantota, is the malaria outbreak involving armed service people, and during those outbreak control, RMO has to interfere because in specific situation, because of his or her experience and knowledge in such situations, in malaria operation aspects, sometimes RMOs has to involve. This is the organization chart before and after devolution. In the left-hand side, this is the before devolution. The RMO is under Director Anti-Malaria Campaign, it's a vertical campaign, and Director is under Director General of Health Services. But after decentralization, all the powers were devolved to provincial health services. So there is PDHS. Under PDHS, each district is headed by Regional Director of Health Services. And under the Regional Director of Health Services Administration, there's RMO at district level and MOHS at MOH divisions level. But still, there is a link between Direct Anti-Malaria Campaign and RMO through technical advisory capacity. Although administration, RMO is not directly under director, but he is technically supervised and also guided by Direct Anti-Malaria Campaign. Briefly, if we compare the duties and responsibilities of RMO AMC, before decentralization, RMO implement the control program based on the plan of operation prepared by AMC headquarters, IRS. Mainly, they had to do IRS operations, and also they have to monitor, supervise field operation, maintain returns and records. But after decentralization, he is more of a technical officer. So he has to plan the regional level planning based on national strategic plans. And also he has to monitor the performance of implementation, technical supervision of activities, coordinate malaria control, elimination activities within the district. And also he has to implement technical directives of Direct Anti-Malaria Campaign. And also he has to maintain returns and records and channel through to Directorate Anti-Malaria Campaign. The next section of my presentation is I'm going to illustrate RMO's role through my experience as district level malaria control officer. I have to mention here the critical role of district malaria officer and their contribution to elimination. Theoretical point of view, we all know the malaria and other vector-borne diseases are focal and local problems. To control or eliminate, it needs a competent local action. This is the principal role of controlling any vector-borne disease. And also, the transmission of malaria is highly heterogeneous, and risk factors, receptivity, vulnerability may be unique from place to place. So somebody has to analyze these data, and it is dynamic. So this type of nature, somebody has to analyze it and take appropriate measures from time to time. And there are national level strategic plans, national level guidelines, SOPs are prepared, but these, especially national strategic plans, have to be tailor-made to suit the local condition. So there must be somebody to handle this critical task. And also, there are guidelines and SOPs prepared at national level. So, these would be mere documents if it is not go to the fingertips of the grassroots level workers, because nobody read these SOPs and guidelines unless they have been trained well. So somebody must be there to train them. Their capacity is built to get these guidelines and SOPs to their fingertips. So this is the role of, actually the critical role of district malaria officer in any country who is embarking elimination. So I was appointed, my first appointment is 1989. I was appointed in Eastern Province district called Ampara. And I worked from 1989 to 2002, that is 12 years. And then I transferred to Anuradhapura in the North Central Province in 2002. And I worked for 18 years and up until this year. Both districts are located in dry zone that is endemic for malaria. So first I was appointed to Ampara district. In nutshell, Ampara district is the big problem is that when I go there, it was conflict affected. Nobody goes there, but I took the challenge and I went there. And the part of one in Moch area is under Mahavali Development Mega Projects. So the malaria incidence was very high. 60% of the population was got malaria. And also there are some other MOH areas. This one, and this one is highly forested areas, and the main livelihood of these people is the slash and burn cultivation. So their life style patterns and their association with the forest make them, these areas are very high, highly malarious areas. But the other areas, other health areas, moderate endemicity or low, the coastal area is low level of endemicity. But even this area, inland areas, some pockets were not get irrigated agriculture. So these areas were chain cultivation or slash and burn cultivation was the main practice. And so malaria endemicity was highly heterogeneous. And the main control method, transmission control method, was 5% malathion spraying, perennial spraying when I go there, 4 rounds per year. And also there were early detection and prompt treatment through activated passive case detection and passive case detection. Since 1999, we had some outreach clinics to augment this EDPT. I want to share with you some actions. As a newly appointed RMO, I took some initiatives to streamline the IRS program rationally, even 1989. At that time, the perennial spraying of malathion was the main intervention of transmission control was 4 rounds, carrying out 4 rounds of malathion in all over the district. That was carpet spray, what it called carpet spray. And I was not happy with this situation because when I analyzed the data, I found that some units, because they have to finish, they have to complete each round within 3 months of 3 months. But unfortunately, each round, the number of houses, the target number of houses are increased. So they are dragging their monthly cycle, 3-monthly cycle to 4 months, sometimes 5 months, sometimes 6 months. So first thing I did was to streamline this spraying, and I have reduced about 20%. I have cut down 20% of the target so that each unit can complete their rounds within 3 monthly cycles. And also during the course of my tenure, I started stratifying the area so that instead of mass preventive perennial spraying, was replaced by seasonal spraying and focal responsive IRS. And incidentally, in 1994, the WHO also advocated the same strategy in their new global malaria control strategy. So I am happy that I took the initiative. Actually, at that time, the Polonnaruwa district, my colleagues have taken that initiative as well. And also there was a large-scale distribution of plain nets because LLI was not there. And I had to distribute, and through not only distribution, but we have to do some IEC activities. And this was done through the local NGOs and community organizations. And all of these activities was done in decentralized setting. We didn't have the vertical structure. So I have to convince my administrators. They are not very much interested in malaria because they have other problems. So I have to convince them. And also during this period, this area is highly conflict affected area. So it is a very difficult time, but I am happy that when I transferred to the North Central province, the downward trend of incidents was maintained in Ampara district. Then I took the RMO post at Anuradhapura. It was the largest district and high north and east districts. And during this period, I have to experience the malaria control phase, pre-elimination, elimination, and also once after elimination, I have to prepare for WHO elimination certification process. And then I had to do the preparations for the region for prevention of reintroduction or re-establishment. Let me show some analysis of the epidemiological profile of the district. It is landlocked bordering potential malarious districts. And also there are major rivers flowing through the district. So these are tend to pooling during dry season. Anopheles culicis is prolifically breeding in these pools during the dry season. And then there are tank cascade systems all over the district. These are even dry season. Tend to pool for cooling, and there are extensive man-made breeding sites such as Corepy or Anopheles culicis remote created. I have a district that there are a lot of vulnerable groups, home guards, chain cultivators, fishermen, hunt. Okay, there are other reasons, lot of population movements and displacement due to the ethnic conflict, and we had refugee camps and so on. So, and also the formerly Mahavali Development Project also had an impact on malaria. This is displayed in this graph. You can see there is a fluctuation of cases, and cases The case numbers increased 167,000 in 1987. And this can be attributed to the resettlement development project of Mahavali. And in 90s, you can see there is a peak incidents during 1993-94. This we can attribute the high conflict situation. But with there is a great improvement of the malaria situation in 2000 decade. I can attribute these the three extraneous factors for this. First one is the abatement of Northeast country, because government had a peace accord in 2002, followed by a complete wipeout of LTT militants in 2009. And there were no mega development projects in endemic areas, no adverse climate, prolonged unprecedented droughts involving wet zone as well. So as a whole, the country is ready for elimination. So the period of between 2000 to 2008, the downward trend of case incidence was maintained, and some outbreaks arising from endemic malaria reduced the rate of reduction. And during this, I had to do some focus control to control transmission, enhance transmission in some outbreak areas. These are some maps we have prepared for stratification. We used annual parasite incidence in macro as well as micro level. This graph shows the fluctuation. Actually, it shows the downward trend in 2000 to 2008, and also the rate of reduction. And this graph shows that we reached pre-elimination stage in 2008, and all the country is ready for elimination by the year 2008. These are some of interventions and collaborations that helped us to reach the pre-elimination stage. So we started the malaria elimination drive throughout the country, and it started in 2009. We set two objectives: elimination of falciparum in end of the 2012, that is interruption of transmission of falciparum. Then elimination of malaria altogether in 2014. And we had to formulate a strategy for that. This is a common sense strategy. First, we have to, our surveillance system had to track all the cases reported to the surveillance system. If there's a positive case, we have to give the complete cure, radical cure to the patient, as well as we have to prevent the onward transmission from that case. So we have to follow a scope of work prepared by the National Ministry, National Campaign. And also, we had another thing, because Anuradhapura is highly receptive area. So we found in our stratification, some areas are highly transmission prone areas. We have to risk the transmission risk reduction through mainly LLIN, because there is a change from IRS in 90s and 80s that now it is LLIN. So after that, this strategy is successful, and you can see the number of indigenous internally imported as well as the imported cases. You can see in Anuradhapura, not a single indigenous case was reported after 2011. So the whole country has eliminated malaria in 2012. Actually, the last case was reported actually from Victory Hospital in Anuradhapura, but it was not originated from our district. So we have eliminated malaria in 2012, and we have to continue it. And then we had to we have another hurdle. That is, we have to get the WHO certification of elimination of malaria. And it is again is a challenging task because our elimination is so abrupt because we have targeted in 2014, but we eliminated malaria in 2012. So we have to do a lot of system improvements, systematic compilation of evidence and system development, quality assurance and quality control in microscopy, ensure adequate surveillance, and we have to prepare district level plans and including budget estimate to show that we have continued budgetary provisions and training manuals and SOPs. All we had to work actually literally 24 hours for that certification process. So finally we got the certification, and then we come to the prevention of reintroduction. Again, the RMO has this burden to develop strategies and plans for prevention of reintroduction. Because this prevention of reintroduction and re-establishment, the guidelines were not prepared at that time, 2013. So we have to have innovative thinking to prepare these PUR strategies and also plans. So I prepared a comprehensive problem-based plan for each year after 2013. After situation analysis, then identify problems and root causes for the problems, and formulate objectives, specific objectives, and formulate strategies to fulfill these objectives. Then identified activities within the strategy and set for time frame for the activity, monitor indicators and budget. So now I'm happy that our plans are now implementing even after my retirement. So what are the lessons learned? This is the important part of my presentation. Any countries embarking malaria elimination must designate key provincial or district level officer for malaria elimination, like regional malaria officer. And he or she must remain the campaign till elimination. And the national campaigns must build their capacity for planning, implementing, monitoring, and supervision. Even their ability to train subordinates is very crucial, because at the national level, they prepare national strategic plans, national surveillance and response guidelines, SOPs, but they are mere books. You have to translate these guidelines into action. Unless you are train them in such a way that all these guidelines are taken by fingertips of these people, I don't think these may be useless documents. So you have to have a plan and also some training must be given to the district level officers so that they can train their subordinates. And also I am thinking, even in countries, even though their elimination targets is very remote, suppose it is in 2030, but prepare a roadmap for elimination certification process, because this gives you a perspective of malaria elimination, and it gives you quality assured documentation. You can start, even your targets, elimination targets is very remote, you can start it now, because in some countries, some areas are now malaria free. In such districts or provinces, you may designate it as a model village, and then all the documentation and preparation of PUR plans, all those things can be done in that model districts or provinces. And finally, there is a thing it's a missed opportunity for Sri Lanka. Engage district and peripheral officers to document their experience. In Sri Lanka, we RMOs had big experience on elimination, control, pre-elimination, everything, and even POR. But we are not used to document all this our experience. I think it is very critical because now we forget what we did, and so it is very important at this even at this stage to document the experience of these officers, because unless you can see this malaria elimination literature, all the observations, all the analysis based on macro level information. But what about micro level? That is the most important. This is a micro level staff. Their experience would be much more useful. And I don't, by no means that national level and macro level information are not useful. But I think the micro level experience must be documented in such a way that the others can learn something from that documentation. Okay, that's all I have to tell. Thank you.
Thank you, Jayanthi. It's a marvelous presentation. I think we gain a lot of knowledge about the grassroots level experience of the malaria work in Sri Lanka. And as he clearly mentioned, those experiences should be recorded. Since I have gone through many literature about the malaria control and elimination process in Sri Lanka written by various scholars, but their main focus was the national level or sub-national level, but not with the grassroots level. So it's very much important if somebody can really record those experiences and even to gather those data. I think it's really useful for Sri Lanka as well as the other countries in terms of combating malaria epidemics and malaria control programs.